Hello, everybody. This is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Part 5, Chapter 24. The congratulations were over. As they went away, they talked about the latest news, the rewards given on this day, and the changed positions of some high officials. What should you say if the Countess Maria Borisovna was made Minister of War, and the Princess Vatkovskaya Chief of Staff? Asked a little gray-haired old man in a gold-embroidered uniform, who was talking with a tall, handsome maid of honor about recent changes. In that case, I should be made adjutant, replied the young girl, smiling. You? Your place is already settled. You are to have charge of the Department of Religions, and Karenin is to be your assistant. How do you do, Prince? Said the little old man, shaking hands with someone who came along. Were you speaking of Karenin? Asked the prince. Yes. He and Putyatov have been decorated with the Order of Alexander Nevsky. I thought he had it already. No. Look at him, said the little old man, pointing with his gold-lace hat towards Alexey Alexandrovitch, who was standing in the doorway, talking with one of the influential members of the Imperial Council. He wore the court uniform, with his new red ribbon across his shoulder. Happy and contented as a copper kopeck, isn't he? And the old man stopped to press the hand of a handsome, athletic chamberlain passing by. No, he's grown old, said the chamberlain. With cares. He spends his life in writing projects. He has buttonholed his unhappy prey, and he will not let him go until he has explained everything, point by point. What, grown old? Il fait des passions. The Countess, Lydia, ought to be jealous of his wife. No, I beg you not speak ill of the Countess Lydia. Is there any harm in her being in love with Karenin? Is Madame Karenina really here? Not here at the palace, but in Petersburg. I met her yesterday with Alexey Vronsky, bras dessous, on Morskaya. C'est un homme qui n'a pas, began the chamberlain in French, but he broke short of the salute and made way for a member of the imperial family who was passing. While they were thus criticizing and ridiculing Alexey Alexandrovitch, the latter was barring the way of the imperial councillor, and without pausing to take breath lest he should lose him, was giving a detailed explanation of a financial scheme. Alexey Alexandrovitch, about the time that his wife left him, had reached a situation painful for an official, the culmination of his upward career. Possibly he was the only one who did not see that his career had ended. Neither his collision with Stremov, or the trouble with his wife, or the simple fact that Alexey Alexandrovitch had reached his limit. The fact remained that everyone saw clearly that his official race was run. He still held an important place. He was a member of many important committees and councils, but he was one of those men of whom nothing more is expected. His day was over. All that he said, all that he proposed, seemed antiquated and vain. But Alexey Alexandrovitch himself did not realize this, but felt that he could appreciate the acts of the government more fairly, since he had ceased to take an active share in it, and thought that it was his duty to indicate certain reforms which should be introduced. Shortly after his wife's departure, he began to write his first pamphlet about new tribunals and proposed to follow it up with a series on the different branches of the administration. He not only didn't realize his hopeless situation in the official world and therefore didn't lose heart, but he took immense delight in the activity. He that is unmarried is careful for the things of the Lord, how he may please the Lord. But he that is married is careful for the things of the world, how he may please his wife, said the Apostle Paul. And Alexey Alexandrovitch, who now directed his life in all respects according to the epistle, often quoted this text. It seemed to him, now that he was deprived of his wife, that by devotion to these projects he served the Lord more faithfully than ever. The imperial councillor's very manifest impatience in no way abashed Karenin, but he stopped a moment as a prince of the imperial family was passing, and his victim seized his opportunity to escape. Left to himself, Alexey Alexandrovitch bowed his head, tried to collect his thoughts, and with an absent-minded glance about him, stepped towards the door, hoping to meet the Countess there. How strong and healthy they look, he said to himself, as he caught sight of the vigorous neck of the prince, who wore a close-fitting uniform, and the handsome chamberlain with his perfumed side whiskers. It's only too true that all is evil in this world, he thought, as he looked at the chamberlain's sturdy legs. Ah, Alexey Alexandrovitch, cried the little old man, with a wicked light glowing in his eyes, as Karenin passed with a cold bow. I've not yet congratulated you, and he pointed to the newly received ribbon. I thank you. This is a fine day, replied Alexey Alexandrovitch, accentuating the adjective, as was his habit. He knew that these gentlemen were making sport of him, but as he expected nothing but hostile feelings, he was entirely indifferent. The Countess's yellow shoulders and soft, pensive eyes now became visible and invited him from afar. With a smile that showed his even white teeth, he went to join her. Lydia Ivanovna's toilet had cost her much labor, like all her recent efforts in this direction, for she was pursuing a very different aim from that which she had set 30 years before. Formerly she had thought only of adorning herself, and was never too elegant for her taste. Now she sought to render the contrast endurable between her person and her toilet, and in Alexey Alexandrovich's eyes she succeeded. He thought her charming. The woman's sympathy and tenderness were, for him, a sole refuge from the general animosity. From the midst of this throng of enemies, he felt drawn to her like a plant towards the light. "I congratulate you," she said, looking at his decoration. Karenin shrugged his shoulders and half closed his eyes, as if to say that this was nothing to him. The Countess knew that these distractions, even though he wouldn't confess it, caused him the keenest pleasure. "How's our angel?" she asked, referring to Sharosha. "I can't say that I'm very well satisfied with him," replied Alexey Alexandrovich, lifting his eyebrows and opening his eyes. Sitnikov does not please him. Sitnikov was Sharosha's tutor, as I told you. I find him in a certain apathy towards the essential questions which ought to move the soul of every man and every child. And Alexey Alexandrovich began to discourse on a subject which, next to the questions of administration, gave him the most concern: his son's education. Never till the present time had educational questions interested him, but having been called upon to look after his son's training, he spent a portion of his time in studying works on anthropology, pedagogy, and didactics, and he conceived a plan of study which the best tutor of Petersburg was then entrusted to put into practice, and this work constantly occupied him. "Yes, but his heart. I find in this child his father's heart, and with that he cannot be bad," said the Countess with enthusiasm. "Da, possibly. For me, I perform my duty. It's all that I can do." "Will you come to my house?" asked the Countess after the moment's silence. "I have a very painful matter to talk about with you. I would have given the word to spare you certain memories. Others don't think the same. I have a letter from her. She is in Petersburg." Alexey Alexandrovich quivered at the recollection of his wife, but his face instantly assumed an expression of mortal petrification that showed only absolutely unable he was to treat of such a subject. "I expected it," he said. The Countess looked at him with exultation, and in the presence of a soul so great, tears of transport sprang to her eyes.